Hello, hello, hello. Hi, I'm Larson. I write for My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. And I moderate panels. So this is the script-to-screen panel where we have writers and voice actors talking about that stuff. They're not all here, but we'll start with these over here. So bring up the writers first. Cindy Morrow. Meghan McCarthy with her donuts. Amy Rogers will be joining us later. And then in terms of actors, we have Garry Chalk, who did Fido the Diamond Dog. And Brenda Crichlow, Zecora. Michael Daingerfield, the voice of Brayburn. And Marika Hendrikse, the voice of Gilda. And there will be two more coming eventually. But we'll start anyways. So my first question for all of you is, what's your favorite thing I've written?
Everything.
Okay, so let's see here. I tweeted out, like, what should I ask for this panel? And the thing people were most curious about is the level of ad-libbing, changing lines from the script. How does it work? Because there's such a distance between the voice booth and where we are writing. It's a different country. So how does that work?
Oh.
Any of you?
We ad-lib all the time. Because the writers are just, you know, they try. They try really hard to make a good script, but sometimes it takes the genius of a brilliant actor to really, really pull that script out of the mire and into that wonderful stratosphere called greatness. And it's a difficult job, but somebody's got to do it.
Okay, you know what I'll say? Yeah, I'll give that I'm going to give all my kudos to the writers. Thank you very much. But no, you know, it's the space in between. When we're recording, there's a moment in time just before the lines start up again where we might be all joking back and forth, and, you know, there's a whole lot of ad-libbing and accents, and you wouldn't even believe, and then all of a sudden, and we're rolling, line number 23, and then it's silence. So there's a lot of ad-lib that also happens in between that nobody would ever hear, correct?
That's right. All the laughing, that's right. All the laughing that we get to do when we work together. Absolutely.
So what you're saying is all the fun stuff.
All the fun that we get to have doing this work. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I actually, when people ask me to do the voice of particular characters, sometimes I cannot do them without the lines. Because I often think that the characters are so well written and the lines are so well done that is actually what, for me, brings the character and the voice. The voice and character are the same thing for me. One is not separate from another. So it's actually the writing that helps that, for me, that process. So I'm going to be a suck, not like Garry.
Like, note to self, hired.
But that's true. It's true. That is my thing. If it's well written, then I can do it.
Of course, you know that I'm only joking.
Yes, he totally
We're
is.
just fooling around.
There actually weren't diamond dogs in that episode. He ad-libbed the whole thing.
But I got to say, just before we start,
Yeah, sure.
I got to say, there is one show that I did many years ago that all of my lines were improvised. And that was, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Reboot. Well, Hack and Slash, the two dumb robots, every line in the script was improvised. So when you listen to it, it's just Phil Hayes or Scott McNeil and myself just riffing off each other. It's quite funny.
That is cool.
Did you get a writer's credit?
No.
I wouldn't mind going down the line, and just since, you know, I looked at all your IMDb pages to try to get a sense of what you've done, and they're all just gigantic and filled with all sorts of amazing shows and movies and video games and all sorts of stuff. The writers too, you all have massive resumes. But since this is a TV convention, just maybe talk a little bit about your influences in television and stuff that you liked growing up and, you know, maybe drew you to this profession.
Okay, well, I'll start. Gosh, what drew me to this profession? I started singing, dancing, acting from the time I maybe was about 8 or 9, so piano and all that kind of stuff. And then right into theater school, and I thought at one time, gosh, I don't know, I'm going to go over to New York and go to Juilliard or something like that, and I ended up going to a theater school right in our hometown, which was Studio 58, and I started in theater, and then film and television hit Vancouver, BC, and we had every production that you've probably ever seen, from Jump Street, MacGyver, Outer Limits, you name it. It's all there. So I just transitioned from theater into film.
That's the other crazy thing. You all have a lot of overlap in shows. Jump Street I saw in a couple of years.
That's just because that dates us. We go back a ways.
Anyhow, carry on.
Well, it's funny because the very first show that Brenda and I did together was MacGyver. And I won't tell you how long that is, you know, out of deference to my beautiful woman here. But no, but that was the first show we ever did together, was MacGyver. And I'm more along the same lines as her. I've been singing and acting since I was about 8 years old. I gave it up in high school because I thought it was just for fun. I didn't know that you could actually get paid to do it. So I only did it in amateur theater and musicals and so on. And then somebody said, you know, if you do this, I'll give you money. What? And I went, what? Okay, and I did it, and I went to the same theater school as Brenda did, Studio 58, which is, you know, not to give a plug to a school, but the greatest school in Canada. And it was a wonderful time, and I got into, again, singing and dancing and acting on stage, and moved into film and television. I started my very first animation job, but there was actual bona fide, was for Kenner Classics for Nickelodeon, and it was, I don't know if you can YouTube it, I think it's around there somewhere. It's called Hiawatha. And I did that, I think, in around 1982 or something, or 83, I can't remember exactly. But that was my first cartoon. And my next cartoon was Barbie, and Barbie and the Rockers, a one-off thing. And then I landed an iconic role, and I didn't even know that I got it, but I finally got it, and that was the part of He-Man, Masters of the Universe. And since then, I've played lots of characters. I was Optimus Prime for quite a long time, and Optimus Primal, and Dr. Robotnik, and Grounder from Sonic the Hedgehog, and of course Hack and Slash and all those characters.
You were Luca Brasi too. Huh? I saw you were Luca Brasi too.
Yes, I was awesome. Luca Brasi in the Godfather video game, that was quite a challenge. It was really fun. They put dots all over you and make you walk around and make your mouth go like this, and then they animate you. So I became Luca Brasi. But yeah, and since then I've been numerous cartoons. This is my first My Little Pony convention, so I'm a virgin.
No longer.
So you have to be gentle with me. I know that a lot of you like hugging people, and I like hugging. I do. Sometimes it's a little disconcerting when someone comes up to you and goes, "Hi," and I go, "Do you have a cold?" "Yes." "Get off!" No, but it's really fun. So far, all the people I've met have been wonderful, and I've been having a great time. So thank you for that. And just one quick thing, I'd like to give a shout out. There's a Jacob Hale out here. Is there Jacob? Oh, hi Jacob. Today is Jacob's 18th birthday. So let's all give Jacob here, a My Little Pony happy birthday song. Ready? And 1, 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jacob. Happy birthday to you.
Over to you. You want to keep going?
Same question.
Yeah.
How I got started. I was always really interested in writing from when I was little, and kind of same thing. Didn't realize that's what I could do for a living, and went through lots of things that I thought I wanted to be when I grew up, and then started to realize that I kept changing them based on like a movie that I saw. And then I realized, oh, maybe you don't want to be like an astronaut or a lawyer or whatever you saw in these movies. You actually want to write about all of those types of characters, so you could be all of those things at any different time. And then the way I sort of got started in TV was, I actually started off in features. I had a fellowship with Disney, and did that for a year, and then they said, don't let the door hit you on your way out. And didn't make anything that I did, and so kind of toiled away in trying to do features. And then my husband was working in animation and was on a show called Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And they needed a script done in a short amount of time, and he said, I'll do it, but only if my wife can help me. And we churned out a script, and it turned out well, and so I got to do some other episodes of that show, and then kind of went from there, just getting different things, and that's obviously how I met Lauren, and then she brought me on to Pony, and here I am today.
So my biggest influence actually was my father. He was an actor and a director, and I went and saw him perform on stage when I was probably about 7 or 8, and he was up there doing some comedy, and I was just like, you know what, that is pretty cool what he's doing, and I'm sort of sending a message up to him. My dad just passed away actually in December. And so it's been, I'm not trying to get too deep here, but I've been very reflective over the last 2.5 months, because he really is the reason why I do what I do. And it's really cool for me to look back at all the things and all the ways that he influenced me in doing this. And but funny enough, my mom got me into doing modeling and like commercials when I was like a baby. Literally like 1 year old. And not that I had any say in the matter, but so I was doing like photography and then commercials and stuff like that in Toronto, and then got out of the business when I was about 10, and then I got back into the business after doing stand-up in university in Kentucky. I went to Murray State University. I don't know if you guys ever heard of they got a good basketball team, all of you basketball fans. But I started doing stand-up there, and then I was like, I think I'm going to get back into doing acting and all that. And then one of my first jobs back into the business was I was the voice of Ace Ventura on the Ace Ventura cartoon. So I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but that was kind of my first stab back at it, and then got back into on camera and doing that whole scene. And but yeah, along the way, lots of like Transformers. I was Wheeljack and Quick Mix and Inferno on the Transformers series, and what else? And then recently, still doing on camera, I did a run on the last season of Smallville. I don't know if any Smallville fans out there? A couple? 2 or 3? But anyways, this is my first MLP convention. It's fantastic to be here, and you guys are great, and thanks for being such great fans, because we wouldn't be down here if it wasn't for you. Cheers.
You know what, my story, I guess, is fairly similar to everybody else's. I always knew I wanted to be a performer from the time I was about 4. And I apparently was watching ballet on TV and said to my mom I'd like to do that, so she enrolled me in dance classes, and was very overdramatic as a child. When my mother would leave, like, I would sit on the windowsill and sing the song Maybe from Annie. It was just ridiculous. She's going to the grocery store. She's going to be back. So there's a bit of overdrama involved there, which is useful. I focused the beginning of my career on dancing and took a lot of lessons, eventually went off to ballet school, was kind of advised by my ballet teachers, you should really think about getting an agent and doing some film and TV or theater. And so I did. It was kind of cool because, as I said, sitting on the windowsill, singing and all that stuff was, when I decided to get an agent, I thought maybe I'll get to do that for real. And then it just evolved. I started doing film and TV and commercials, and then I did a lot of theater for years and started doing animation probably about 15 years ago, maybe, something like that. And over the last 10 years, that's all I've done is animation, and I love it. This is also my first My Little Pony convention. It's been great. Thank you, guys. In my experience with my family, my dad was very opposite in a way. And it wasn't because he was, he's a great guy. It wasn't like he was being a jerk or something, but he was very concerned about the idea that I was going to be a performer. And one of the defining moments in my life was Christmas dinner. I was about 14, I think, and my dad was saying, you need to take physics. All my cousins were around. Yeah. All my cousins were around, and my aunt and my uncle and my brother were sitting at the dinner table, and he kept saying, you need to register for your physics class. And I said, I'm not taking physics. I'm not going to university. I'm going to be an actor. This is what I'm going to do. I don't need physics to be an actor. And it went to the point in the conversation where he said, you will take physics. And I slammed my hand down on the table, and I said, Dad, it's my life. And there was a pause. Awesome. And my auntie Mavis started to clap. Huge defining moment in my life, and that was kind of, it's not the impetus for me to continue to do this, but I just, when things are not fun, and sometimes they're not fun as an actor, I remember that moment. You just have to keep going, and eventually someone will clap.
Well, unlike most of the voice actors here, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, because I dabbled in everything and dabbled in many things, some good and some not so great. So I decided somewhere in my high school, college preparatory years, when everybody was applying to Ivy League schools, I would apply to art school. And I toured LA. I decided I didn't want to go too far away. I grew up in San Francisco, so I had to decide between UCLA and CalArts. And my dad said, well, why don't you go to UCLA, because it's $6,000 cheaper a year. And I said, but Dad, there's so many people. And in the end, I ended up going to CalArts. I got my way, luckily, and it was a good thing. I actually entered the graphic design department. I didn't even know there was animation. I loved He-Man, by the way, and She-Ra, and I watched tons of cartoons, but I didn't even know that animation was a job. So when I got to CalArts, I met the biggest dorks I had ever met in my entire life. And some of them were Craig McCracken, Gendy Tartakovsky, we lived down the hall, Rob Renzetti, who was a story editor on Powerpuff. Lauren came in a year later, and I realized that I had found my family. I had found the right people finally. After 18 years of searching, I had realized that dorks are pretty cool. So I immediately switched out of graphic design, because those guys were, I'm seriously they invented hipster, the graphic design department at CalArts. And I entered the world of nerdiness. And I learned about story and animation and drawing, and I decided I wanted to go into educational CD-ROM, which no one told me was a dying art. But I did it anyway, and I worked at DreamWorks Interactive. And in the meantime, my boyfriend at the time, had graduated with Lauren,
And he got a job working on Dexter's Lab at Hanna-Barbera with Craig, and with Gendy. And I don't know, I was just floundering in the CD-ROM business, and I think Craig said, well, why don't you take a storyboarding test? And if we like your stuff, we'll give you a storyboard to draw. So I did. It looked like just chicken scratches, but I guess Craig saw something in there, or he was really desperate, I don't know. And I did a freelance, and then after that, he invited me to join them. They were moving to Warner Brothers, and so I got on Team Powerpuff alongside Amy, who I also went to college with. And from there, it just kind of took off. We all moved to Cartoon Network. I storyboarded on Powerpuff Girls, Dexter, did a Flintstones special. I freelanced with Mitch on My Gym Partner's a Monkey, Chowder. I did a Flapjack episode. And in the meantime, I was actually transitioning into screenwriting because I had kids and I didn't want to have to work full-time in-house. So when Lauren was developing My Little Pony out of the blue, I got an email and she asked me if I wanted to come on board and write. And the rest is history.
Two introductions. This is Amy Keating Rogers, who's pretty much just a badass. And that's Andrew Francis there.
Come on, Andrew.
The voice of Shining Armor. So actually, because there's an obscene number of people in this panel, I'm just going to ask one more question, and then you guys can ask questions. But I want to get into the specific characters that we're here for, and because it takes, the writer and the voice actor to create two different parts of the character, and how this character came to be, and that kind of thing. Especially since we're in different countries. So Cindy and Marika, can you talk about Gilda and what both of you were thinking when she was invented?
Know from my part, I'd like to hear from you actually. I was told that there was a character who was going to be sort of a bully character that was going to come in and wanted to have Rainbow Dash all to herself. So I wasn't given a whole lot of immediate direction. And in fact, that was my first episode, which I honestly struggled with, and I got a lot of help from Rob and Lauren. So that's just my part, but I think your part's probably more interesting. So. Better be.
The process for most people as an actor is you come to the audition, and once at the audition, you're usually given a couple of days to prepare. You've got a script, a character description, pieces of a script, not the entire script, and a picture of the character usually, which helps. It helped specifically for this because being a griffin, obviously there's specific things about it. It's an unusual creature. So that helped me to come up with an idea of how maybe I would like to play her in terms of vocal qualities. But then, for me, the story and the words that I'm written, not that I've been written because it wasn't with me in mind, but the story and the character and the lines that are written are what informs my ideas of what to bring. So you could see, she is a bully, and she really is fairly unapologetic about being a bully. And I think that is something interesting about her, and who knows what will happen in the future, if anything, with her. But she doesn't redeem herself, as far as I'm concerned. And I liked that. I like that she doesn't become good in the end. I'm okay with that. And so that informed the way that I was going to go about this character. She was not going to be apologetic about anything she did. Straightforward, do it, not be ashamed. So that's kind of how I tried to approach. And the writing was what informed me in that particular choice. Then you get to the session and you get directed and stuff like that, but that's my thought process in that way, or in that case.
And Michael, how about Brayburn? Where did he come from?
Well, it's. I was saying this in the interview yesterday that something that's been quite common over the past few years is that some of us have home studios, and we actually just record the character at our house, and then we just send it in as an MP3, and that's the audition. You do get the picture and the character description and stuff like that, which helps a lot. And so I just kind of went with a friendly, kind of hyper, super sweet, just kind of sweet, super kind of nice guy from, like, I think it's Kentucky or something, because I went to school in Kentucky, so I kind of borrowed from that. And I just kind of went in that direction, and Appaloosa, and just kind of did that whole thing. And, you know, and I don't know, like, I sort of felt like the way I did the Appaloosa line was kind of how I just felt like I had a kind of a neat take on it, because I don't know if everybody was kind of doing the stretchy thing with it, and you just try to grab things and make it interesting. That's all, like, you know. And so on the day we just had fun, and that's about it. Yeah.
Cool.
Kentucky is a famous horse town.
It certainly is. Lexington, absolutely, yeah.
Andrew and Meghan, you want to talk about Shining Armor, how he came to be?
Shining Armor. Well, kind of like the other voice actors have said, you get the description and you get the sides. I wanted to sort of give him sort of a genuine kind of read, very humble, a good older brother, big brother. So that kind of led me to do that. And it was pretty simple. He kind of had a little bit of a surfer vibe, which a lot of people have sort of mentioned, which is kind of a little bit of me. And at first I thought maybe that was maybe not the right choice, but now looking back, I kind of like how he has that sort of edge to him, that he's kind of the cooler older brother, really loves his sister.
Yeah, I mean, he does it so perfectly, and I think he has to say how he.
Twiley!
I had to put you on the spot.
And of course, that's right.
But he captures it really well, because this is that big brother that you look up to and admire, but is genuinely likes you and is sweet to you, and I think Andrew really captures that really well. He's cool, and it was important for that episode that you like that character and that you understand why she has such an affection for him, and I thought that was brought to life. So.
And Garry, Fido has a very unique voice. How did that come about?
Well, Fido was a big bad dog who kidnaps little ponies. And I can get my head around that. Because that's the kind of guy I am. I like to kidnap little ponies. But being a very horsey person myself and a dog person, I was just looked at myself and I said, well, you know, my brother has a huge mastiff, kind of a mastiff boxer cross. Looks like it would eat you for breakfast. And I was wondering, what would this dog sound like if it talked? I was just, I'm gonna get that little pony. Come here, little pony. We will take care of you. And I didn't have very much to go on, but as I said, you know, with every character I do, and I've done quite a few, I always look at the character one way, the physical aspect of the character, whether it's large or small or jowly or thin-necked or fat or thin or whatever it is, and try and stay within the physical confines of that character, and then take in the emotional aspect and the writing of what kind of personality this character has, and then incorporate that all into a real character that everybody will care about, however small or large it is. That's our role as performers, is to bring those characters off the page, and hopefully you care about them enough to watch them and identify with them, because even though they are ponies or whatever they are in whatever world they are, in that world they're real, and their feelings are real, their emotions are real, and all the relationships that they have are real in this sort of bizarre, unreal framework. And it's our job to make it make it become real enough that you as a viewer watching it will say, I know that guy, or I like that girl. I want to be a part of this world. And, you know, I must say that I wasn't much of a brony, my pony, little pony, because I'm an old guy. And as a rule, I don't watch a lot of cartoons. And I was watching several of the My Little Pony cartoons and found the world's shortest film clip on YouTube of my character that was exactly 3 seconds long. And so I started watching them. And the one thing that I found about the show and the characters is that the characters are adorable. The characters, I really care about them. They're really nifty. The writing is very good, and the animation is good, and the stories are good. So at first I just, you know, I put a little brush in the back of my pants and thought I might be turning into a brony. But it was nothing. It was a towel, you know. It was a towel. I would put the towel in there, and I'd just walk around and say, no, it don't feels okay. And then, you know, okay. Then I put on a hat with some ears, and that was okay. And before I knew it, I was a full-fledged brony. But the funny thing is that even at my age, I can look at these things, and you know, I have my favorite cartoons, and all the old Hanna-Barberas were my favorite cartoons, and some of the newer cartoons just crack me up. And this one, My Little Pony, didn't crack me up, but it was very, very watchable. Thank you guys for that, and thank you for that. So there you go.
So let's hear about. Amy wrote Zecora and Fido, so both.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention that with both Zecora and with the Diamond Dogs, they started out very, very different to what they ended up being. I actually struggled, I'll mention the Diamond Dogs first. I wrote them originally to sound like 1930s, 40s gangsters. And I actually have the script here. I don't know if you feel like reading anything. He's going to be reading a number of characters, but if you want to read that kind of first exchange there. But they're supposed to. And then it changed to, I'll let him read this, I'll vamp. It changed to making them more Peter Lorre, Gollum sounding. And I don't think that's what your character ended up being, but that's what.
No, but I could have done it that way. If you want Peter Lorre, I can do it because I'm disgusting.
Excellent. So the 30s, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Here we go. Gems, gorgeous. If them gems was sugar, I'd have a toothache. Can it, you two? Keep your eyes on the prize. Yeah, my eyes is all over the prize. Not that prize, that prize. That pipsqueak? That pipsqueak's the mastermind, the gem hunter. The gem hunter? With him we can have all them gems and more. More? Bring me the dragon. Yes, boss.
So that's. And thank you. It's cool to hear it that way. Then with Zecora, she didn't rhyme at first. Her curse rhymed. The watch out, you pony folk. That plant over there is not a joke. Whatever she says, that was rhyming. But then I don't know if you guys know this, but in Lauren's original pilot, Zecora was in that, and it ended up getting cut really, really early because it was too long and it was just kind of expositional. And back then her name was Shaman. So I read Lauren's shaman scene. And in that, she didn't rhyme, so I figured, okay, she doesn't rhyme, but she's supposed to be very cryptic. So I wrote this scene with Shaman being cryptic. So, and I'll read.
You want to read? Oh, okay.
And I'll do some fine acting.
Want me to
here.
read some of the backup there so you get some context?
Sure. Why don't you read it, and I'll read the other.
So this is what a script sounds like when you just read it sort of flat and then we bring it to life. On Applejack, trying to control Rainbow as they crash about the room. It looks like she's riding a bucking bronco. So Applejack says.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm not a
No,
voice actor.
you just go.
Whoa there, easy Rainbow Crash.
Shaman watches as her house gets smashed up. So this would be me. This is where I would come in. And then, of course, before I say that line, and you're asking now how you develop that character, I imagine her, and again, it just had a line in there to say that she was a shaman, but I imagine her to be grounded, bigger than myself, and as actors, we have to try to use our range and cadences, right? So, and accents. It was described as maybe she had a little bit of Cajun in her at some point, but it sort of metamorphosed into being a little bit more West Indian and African. So that's how my character came to life. And then when I placed her, and in fooling around, it became much lower. It started to get lower and lower and lower. So that's how Zecora sits when I go to do her. So she watches as her house gets smashed up. Ponies, ponies, calm down. Rarity comes storming in with the rest of the ponies, just as furious, following right behind. And Rarity says,
Calm down. Just look at me. You made me look ridiculous. And you made me sound ridiculous. Oh, wait. And you
That's
made me
Fluttershy.
sound ridiculous.
we need Pinkie Pie in here now. And Twilight.
And you stole my magic.
And Fluttershy.
For evil.
And then I come back in again and I say, begging your pardon, pony folk. As Rainbow continues to crash about, Applejack takes her lasso and ropes Shaman's ear. She jumps from Rainbow's chin to Shaman's head. But I did no such thing. Now, you ponies will just take a deep, cleansing breath. I'm sure we can settle this. And that goes on from there, but you sort of get an idea how it comes together. I just want to say one thing. Thank you.
So it was obviously very different than what it ends up being. And when I got notes back, it was, she's nothing special. So I knew that she rhymed in this one bit, and I had rhymes coming up later when Twilight was supposed to read about, or actually, I forget, it says it here in the script, but basically I stole from another part of my writing and made her rhyme throughout, and I just thought of her as being very Shakespearean, and wanted her to be just this elevated speaker, and so that's what it then changed into, and then Brenda
So when I get
brought
my
it to life.
page, that's where I came in. Was now the character rhymes, and she's described as sort of a wise soul, and she has all sorts of concoctions and things. And now I had to go away with that description and come back into the room. And of course, we have the directors there, and I think there might even have been a couple other producers or so. And we just sort of played where it was going to go, and they give direction back to me and say, well, no, she needs can't quite understand that. And Cajun was sort of the first thing that came in, and I was lost with trying to figure out a Cajun French accent. And I challenge anybody, if you can, to give me one. But it metamorphosed, as I said, into the voice that you have now, which, it was just a work in progress in the audition room. I came forth with some suggestions, and then the West Indian was a little bit too Jamaican. I'm half Jamaican and half Trinidadian, and that was a whole other side, and then the African side I sort of brought in to the best of my ability, and it became a mixture of both. And that's how you have Zecora.
We've got some time for questions if you want to. Should I go to this microphone here? You guys back there. This one in front? If you got any questions, just come line up at this microphone here.
Don't be shy.
I didn't-
No. Snooze, you lose.
I don't know what it is.
Hello.
In the aisles.
And then there was a line.
Goodness.
Wait for this guy here.
Debating the question. What about this
Pre-screening.
question? What about that question?
So, this is a question for Brenda. Originally, I believe Lauren wanted an actress who could actually speak Swahili, so that Zecora, when she was chanting at her cauldron and stuff like that, it would sound really cool. When she couldn't find anyone, well, you actually kind of came up with this pseudo-African sounding stuff that sounded really, really good in the episode and all that. And I just kind of want to know like how it was you were able to make up those kinds of sounds, whether they were on the spot or if they were prepared ahead of time.
Let me think. For that, I believe that kind of came out of the hat, and then I was wishing that I'd had a little more time to kind of research that part. But yeah, a lot of it is improv. So when I was there, it was just, okay, try that again. Nope, too broad. Okay, try that again. Narrow it here. You're given direction as you're auditioning. So for that call, it was just, just letting it rip. And again, I was saying to somebody here, just be loud and proud, make no apology. You may feel like an idiot, but then at some point you actually find where the character sits, and it's quite freeing. So yeah, it was just me imitating something of what I heard and then going, I hope I'm not offending anybody, but that kind of works a little bit as a call, and then looking at that and trying to give it a voice. You're welcome. Oh, you know what I'm going to add? There's a fellow, he just said, thank you for what you said to me last time, which was to remember to dance. This was from my first convention. This is my second one. And that was in LA. And I guess that's what I want to say, really. When you get a script, you just have to take it and not think of anything else and just take what's inside and just let it out, let it rip, and make no apology. Sorry? It was another fan, and I said to him, we were having a conversation about something else, I said, just dance like no one's watching, just let it all rip, let it all out, just go, you feel great. And that's what I want to say when we're all developing characters, that a lot of us, you don't see us, but we're in the studio and we're just making a bunch of noise. Woman in a day, or day, one day, one like noodle.
Yes, sir. All right. On Magical Mystery Cure, during the part where Twilight has ascended to an alicorn, when she's flying in as like that star thing, was that 6 star on her cutie mark, that flying cutie mark, was that an animation error, or could it be a sign of things to come?
That's a writer kid.
Bum, bum, bum.
Also,
that's a really good question.
It was not scripted. So the person who could answer that question is Jason, and he's not here.
Also, quick request. Russian shining armor.
It's Riley!
We were going to have one question, but they seem to have forgotten it, so.
Rescinded.
No. Darn it.
No!
Yeah.
Hi. I have a question for the writers.
To the mic.
Sorry. Wait, loud enough? Good. Okay. So, now that Twilight Sparkle is in fact a princess, I'd like to ask for some clarification. Will she be ruling all of Equestria alongside Equestria? I mean, Celestia and Luna, or how does that work? Without spoilers?
You have to wait and see. Is the answer to that.
All right, Andrew Francis, I have a question for you. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but you have done a version of Brayburn's voice that unfortunately didn't make the cut. Now, I've kind of been overcome by curiosity since I've heard that, so I was wondering if you could give us that version of Brayburn's voice.
I don't know if it's necessarily my place anymore to necessarily do it, but do you want to do it together? No, I don't. Let's do it. Just say it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. After we say it. Ready? Oh, okay. 2, 3. Appaloosa! That's all I got.
Can you guys make sure you're speaking right into the microphone so we can pick it up?
I just want to say I absolutely love the line about the liquid pride, and I want to know how'd you come up with that?
I don't remember.
He doesn't remember?
It just happens.
It's just liquid pride.
I have a poster of Andrew Francis on my wall, and I was just looking at it and like, yeah, you'd say that.
I think there was a little bit of debate about whether that line would stay or not, and I'm glad that it did because it does seem to be one that
It's resonated quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right when it came out, I mean, it was sort of a flood on the Twitter, commenting on the line and stuff. And, you know, the lines go by so quickly when you're doing the show. You don't really know what's going to stick and what's really going to resonate with people and stuff. So it was cool to hear that was one of the things that people took to heart.
Yes, my favorite Shining Armor line.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
This is a open question. Has to do with characters.
Can you talk into the mic?
Talk into the mic. All right. This is a open question for let's say for the writers and actors who are doing recurring but irregular characters that show up once every 4 or 5 shows. Do the writers ever end up getting into a writer's block and then contacting the actor in question and saying, "Help me work this out. Since you know this character well, you are the character. Let's work this out." During the actual initial writing stage.
No.
Never happened.
It never happens because we don't have any interaction with the actors because they're in Canada and we're in LA. So.
Phone numbers,
Sorry?
Just trade your phone numbers,
I mean, yeah.
Skype, email,
Yeah.
Facebook.
But I think that if we were in closer proximity and it was something where we could do table reads and things like that, I know I would be really open to that. I've been on a show where we did table reads, and it is good because I hear these voices in my head, but I can't do them as well, obviously, as these guys do. So it would be a great thing to be able to do that.
All right, thank you.
I was just going to say, we're told what to say, and we're okay with that. That's pretty much, that's kind of how it works. It's one way. It's not 2 ways. So.
All right, I guess this question is more for the writers only. Now that you know that you have this big fan base of people who are analyzing your show so closely, are you finding yourself spending more time worrying about things like continuity between episodes and story arcs and stuff like that? Or are you able to just maintain the way that you've been running the show? Is it affecting you guys?
It doesn't. I know when we put things in that, I know there's a couple of things coming up that as I'm writing them, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, they're gonna like this kind of thing. But it was something I was gonna do anyway. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going, oh, what are they gonna? I'm not trying to throw any pandas at anybody. If anybody gets that joke. I want to keep making the best show, and I do know that stuff gets analyzed, and I think really we're so fortunate with Jason, the director. I said it in another panel. I mean, he just knows everything that has ever happened on the show ever. So when we turned in scripts, I'll get notes from him that will be like, well, in episode 213 this happened, and so let's make sure we either reference that again, or we can't have this happen because it wouldn't go with something that happened before. So we just try to be mindful of that, just because I think that makes for a even greater entertainment value for the show, is that if you really are a fan of the show and really watch it, that you can pick up these little things that are sort of being planted along the way.
Yeah, and I think they've always done that continuity before the fandom even came about, because they take their jobs very seriously and want to create a world that is consistent. So they did it before all of this happened, because the show season 1 was done, and season 2 was being written before all of this happened. So they had been making sure everything was, matching up all through season 1. And then I know in season 2 I wrote an episode in A Friend Indeed. Pinky goes to talk to Twilight and Rainbow Dash is reading a book. Well, I didn't know that Rainbow Dash had this whole thing with Daring Do, but Jason Thiessen did, and so he made sure that when Rainbow Dash was reading a book, it was a Daring Do book. So that's stuff that they make sure that it all fits together well.
Is it more prevalent in this show than other children's shows? Are you doing more continuity checking than if you were just doing some other kids show on another network or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's such a unique world, and part of the fun of the show is that there's sort of constant mythology building. So I think in that respect, that there probably is a little bit more than there might be in some other shows.
I was wondering, how many voices can you say Twiley in?
This one asked
You really
the
wanna get me
hardest
started?
question. She asked me a question yesterday. She asked the toughest one.
Really, you want to hear a few?
Sure.
I'll do a deep one. Twiley! Do a high one? Twiley! And then what's a middle one? I don't know. Should I do the Russian one again? Oh, yeah. Here's Gil from Johnny Test. Whoa! Twiley!
Oh, this one's for Larson. When you wrote Lona Eclipse, for Zakura, you used her heavily. Was it easy to write her in? Was it the rhyming easy? Did you get tips from Amy?
Amy's a lot better than I am. I'm sure Brenda gets some of these and like, what the hell? That doesn't rhyme. Doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. You kind of get used. I'm just the moderator.
Sorry if I stutter a lot because I do that all the time. So this is for the voice actors. When was that, or when was that aha moment? Like, oh, this should be like the voice for Shining Armor, Brayburn. I just want to get like a deeper into that because I'm really interested.
Go, Mike.
I think it's just with any character you ever do, you just kind of laser in on it. It starts kind of out here, and then it just kind of gets like this and closer, and then you're like, yeah, that's it. And it's just, you find the personality, you find the laugh, and you're like, yeah, I can live as this character in any situation, write anything. I can be Brayburn out there, or right here, and just drink a thing of water, and just sort of sit here. Whatever you need, you just sort of get into that zone, and you're like, okay, I'm ready. And it's just, that's kind of the feel.
I think Garry kind of nailed it a bit too, is that like, for Shining Armor, I mean, he's sort of a straight up voice, you know what I mean? There isn't a lot of character involved with it. Well,
of course there is.
Well, of course there's character, but he's more of like, it's close to my natural voice, right? And when you're saying, when you look at the character and you see, does he have jowls, is he this, is he that? You sort of find little characteristics about the character to sort of hone in on, and sort of, so if he does have a big neck, maybe that sort of gets in here, but he's bigger, so maybe. So you just sort of find these little sort of characteristics about the character, and you sort of build off that, and then you sound crazy for a while in your apartment, pacing around. But it comes, yeah.
Thank you very much for answering my question.
I'm sorry, all of you, but I think we only have time for one more.
Oh no!
Sorry, guys.
Curses.
Make
This
it
is kind
good.
of for the voice, or for the playwriters. So now that you guys know your voice actors, you can kind of maneuver what you want. Like if you know that one of your voice actors, like maybe he could use an Australian accent, like would you ever put that in for something else? Like bring it up with Scottish accent, or like Russian, of course. Like,
Wiley!
Well, now I know.
Yeah, like when you know the characters can use the different accents, do you kind of use that in the writings for maybe future reference?
I don't think it would be so much. I don't know of an episode where it would be good for Shining Armor to have a Russian accent.
like
but
a
if I
different-
thought of one, now that now
What's
I
he
know
got
it's
in the
gonna-
vodka?
But I think it's more. It's less about knowing other things that they can do, but just their range of the characters that they're doing. Because it's such a long process between when we write a script and when we actually see and hear it. That voice isn't in our head yet until it actually is on the screen. But so now that I've heard what these characters sound like and know the ability that they have and the emotion that they can bring to it, that informs it more. It's like you can take them to certain places emotionally because this talent is just so astronomical that they are going to make just plus whatever we write, and we can have them. I have a tendency to make a lot of the characters go crazy, And I know that I can do that because I know that they are going to just perform the heck out of it and make it better than anything that's even in my head.
And a lot of times, too, when you go to the recording session, there'll be different side characters that aren't necessarily cast beforehand. And so the voice director and different people that are in the room watching and listening, they'll sort of have an idea of what actors could play different side characters. So a lot of times, when you show up to the session, you'll have the character that you're doing, but then there'll be a few other little characters that get thrown your way, which is awesome because it really gets you to flex your creative muscle. So a lot of times the decisions are made sort of last minute, and sometimes by the voice director or whoever's helping them.
So yeah, like other side characters, would using them as a...
Say again, sorry?
Using their different accents as like another side character, or...
Well, I mean, I think that like the voice director or the person helping them would have a good idea of what accents that character... I mean, accents don't usually come up a whole heck of a lot, Mostly it's like maybe a train conductor or someone helping, in different respects, a shop owner or something like that, or a teacher, exactly. And so it's just kind of just understanding sort of what the character looks like and who would be best to fit that voice.
Well, I think the great thing about having accents is it expands your repertory as far as voices go, and I would think for writers even story ideas, or character ideas for a show, because you never know what's going to come up. You never know what's going to add, and some character accents add a lot of range to your other characters. I mean, and all characters evolve over the course of a show. I mean, I think the classic example of an evolving voice in a show that anybody has ever heard is The Simpsons. If you listen to the very first episodes of Homer Simpson, listen to Homer Simpson's
kind
voice.
of in here, sort of like that.
And he's always like that.
And then he kind of went into here.
I hate you guys.
Shut up.
And it evolved. Over the years, it evolved into that voice. And the same thing with any character. They evolve. And I like to have accents in my repertory because, well, I got a big voice. It's hard for me to do kid voices. In fact, it's impossible for me to do kid voices and those little characters. But I do lots of big characters, and the one way to expand on that rep is to do accents.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, two quick things, and then we got to finish this off. I would like to announce that Garry Chalk's autographs are going to be 310 to 510, so pretty much now. And to close it out, we get a special little treat from Amy Keating Rogers and her ukulele.
Come see me.
Okay, first of all, I thought of this as I was drifting off to sleep on Thursday night. Second, that means I haven't practiced it very much. I think that's, I don't know, I might have a third. This is not a good way to play the ukulele.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever I hear ukulele, I always think, it's going to come next, man. That's just me.
Okay. Oh, and let me tell you a little bit. So as you can see, I am wearing a derpy t-shirt. And so this is because of that fine character that we all love so much. I hope I remember the chords. Derpy, oh, crud monkeys. Okay. Derpy with your eyes askew. You know how much we love you. Come on, let's go get some muffins, 'cause I love them like, sorry, crapples, love them like you do. That's really all I had. Thank you all.
I guess that's it. Thanks to everybody up here and all you guys. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, I'm Larson. I write for My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. And I moderate panels. So this is the script-to-screen panel where we have writers and voice actors talking about that stuff. They're not all here, but we'll start with these over here. So bring on the writers first. Cindy Morrow. Meghan McCarthy with her donuts. Amy Rogers will be joining us later. And then in terms of actors, we have Garry Chalk, who did Fido the Diamond Dog. And Brenda Crichlow, Zecora. Michael Daingerfield, the voice of Brayburn. And Marika Hendrikse, the voice of Gilda. And there will be two more coming eventually. But we'll start anyways. So my first question for all of you is, what's your favorite thing I've written?
Everything.
Okay, so let's see here. I tweeted out, like, what should I ask for this panel? And the thing people were most curious about is the level of ad-libbing, changing lines from the script. How does it work? Because there's such a distance between the voice booth and where we are writing. It's a different country.
Very first animation job that was actual bona fide was for Kenner Classics for Nickelodeon, and it was, I don't know if any, you can YouTube it, I think it's around there somewhere. It's called Hiawatha. And I did that, I think, in around 1982 or something, or 83, I can't remember exactly. But that was my first cartoon. And my next cartoon was Barbie, and Barbie and the Rockers, a one-off thing. And then I landed an iconic role, and I didn't even know that I got it, but I finally got it, and that was the part of He-Man, Masters of the Universe. And since then, I've played lots of characters. I was Optimus Prime for quite a long time, and Optimus Primal, and Dr. Robotnik, and Grounder from Sonic the Hedgehog, and of course Hack and Slash and all those characters.
You were Luca Brasi too. I saw you were Luca Brasi too.
Yes, I was
awesome.
Luca Brasi in the Godfather video game, that was quite a challenge. It was really fun. They put dots all over you and make you walk around and make your mouth go like this, and then they animate you. So I became Luca Brasi. But yeah, and since then, numerous cartoons. This is my first My Little Pony convention, so I'm a virgin.
No longer.
So you have to be gentle with me. I know that a lot of you like hugging people, and I like hugging. I do. Sometimes it's a little disconcerting when someone comes up to you and goes, "Hi," and I go, "Do you have a cold?"
Not like Garry. Like, note to self, hired.
But that's true. It's true. That is my thing. If it's well written, then I can do it.
Of course, you know that I'm only joking.
Yes, he totally
We're
is.
just fooling around.
There actually weren't Diamond Dogs in that episode. He ad-libbed the whole thing.
But I gotta say, just before we start,
Yeah, sure.
I gotta say, there is one show that I did many years ago that all of my lines were improvised, and that was, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Reboot. Well, Hack and Slash, the two dumb robots, every line in the script was improvised. So when you listen to it, it's just Phil Hayes or Scott McNeil and myself just riffing off each other. It's quite funny.
That is cool.
Did you get a writer's credit?
No.
I wouldn't mind going down the line, and just since, I I looked at all your IMDb pages to try to get a sense of what you've done, and they're all just gigantic and filled with all sorts of amazing shows and movies and video games and all sorts of stuff. The writers too, you all have massive resumes. But since this is a TV convention, just maybe talk a little bit about your influences in television and stuff that you liked growing up and, you know, maybe drew you to this profession.
Okay, well, I'll start. Gosh, what drew me to this profession? I started singing, dancing, acting from the time I maybe was about 8 or 9, so piano and all that kind of stuff. And then right into theater school, and I thought at one time, gosh, I don't know, I'm going to go over to New York and go to Juilliard or something like that, and I ended up going to a theater school right in our hometown, which was Studio 58, and I started in theater, and then film and television hit Vancouver, BC, and we had every production that you've probably ever seen, from Jump Street, MacGyver, Outer Limits, you name it. It's all there. So I just transitioned from theater into film.
That's the other crazy thing. You all have a lot of overlap in shows. Jump Street I saw in a couple of years.
That's just because that dates us. We go back a ways.
Hang on. Carry on.
Well, it's funny because the very first show that Brenda and I did together was MacGyver. And I won't tell you how long that is, you know, out of deference to my beautiful woman here. But no, but that was the first show we ever did together, was MacGyver. And I'm more along the same lines as her. I've been singing and acting since I was about 8 years old. I gave it up in high school because I thought it was just for fun. I didn't know that you could actually get paid to do it. So I only did it in amateur theater and musicals and so on. And then somebody said, you know, if you do this, I'll give you money. What? And I went, what? Okay, and I did it, and I went to the same theater school as Brenda did, Studio 58, which is, you know, not to give a plug to a school, but the greatest school in Canada. And it was a wonderful time, and I got into, again, singing and dancing and acting on stage, and moved into film and television. I started my very...
So how does that work? Oh. Any of you?
We ad-lib all the time, because the writers are just, you know, they try. They try really hard to make a good script, but sometimes it takes the genius of a brilliant actor to really, really pull that script out of the mire and into that wonderful stratosphere called greatness. And it's a difficult job, but somebody's got to do it.
Okay, you know what I'll say? Yeah, I'll give that I'm going to give all my kudos to the writers, thank you very much. But no, you know, it's the space in between. When we're recording, there's a moment in time just before the lines start up again where we might be all joking back and forth, and, you know, there's a whole lot of ad-libbing and accents, and you wouldn't even believe, and then all of a sudden, and we're rolling, line number 23, and then it's silence. So there's a lot of ad-lib that also happens in between that nobody would ever hear, correct?
All the laughing, that's right. All the laughing that we get to do when we work together. Absolutely.
So what you're saying is all the fun stuff.
All the fun that we get to have doing this work. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I actually, when people ask me to do the voice of particular characters, sometimes I cannot do them without the lines. Because I often think that the characters are so well written and the lines are so well done that is actually what, for me, brings the character and the voice. The voice and character are the same thing for me. One is not separate from another. So it's actually the writing that helps that, for me, that process. So I'm going to be a sucker